Ladies and gentlemen, I think in the wrestling world, we can clearly tell who has the more momentum, who has more positive attention, and that is AEW. That is All Elite Wrestling. They have everything right going on in that company. They are going upwards to great success, and everybody is very excited for their future. That is not the same thing with the WWE. I was gonna wait to make this video about the releases. I was not gonna wait, but I wanted to wait because Andrew Zarin of the Mcmahon podcast, who is very reliable now, tweeted out that there was more releases to come. So I was waiting to see if there was more releases to come, and there was not. But right before I clicked start on this video, my phone started to blow up, and I just read that Monday Night Raw got its worst rating in the history of that show. The worst rating of the history of the first hour and the third hour. They got, I think, a 1.4 million viewers. I love it. I love this. Kenny Omega laughing right there, man. That's exactly how I feel. Let me play it again. Oh, you love it, man. They deserve it. They deserve it for how bad that show is on Monday night. I am so happy reading that rumor. And, maybe this gives them, I doubt it, because all this company cares about is money. People say WWE is not a wrestling company. WWE is a business. Wrestlers have said that. People inside the company have said that. And now I believe it. WWE is a business. It's not a wrestling company. And this all basically started last night when Sean Ross Sapp tweeted out, well, I'm blocked by Sean Ross Sapp, but I found out through other people what he had tweeted out. And he tweeted out that there was going to be some cuts in the WWE today. So, and there was going to be some big names as well. And that was apparently the case. That was apparently the case, as this morning, WWE cut 6 wrestlers. And I'm telling you, man, it might only be 6 wrestlers, but there's more to come. There is more to come, whether that's tomorrow, this weekend, next month, at the end of the year. There are more cuts to come. It is not over. So this was confirmed by WWE themselves today that they cut ties with Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, Ruby Riot, Buddy Murphy, Lana, and Santana Garrett. I would have to say this is the most shocking group of releases we've had yet. We had the big Black Wednesday release last year, the beginning of the pandemic. We had another release not even 2 months ago. With Samoa Joe and the Iconics and Bo Dallas and all them. And now we have this group, which I am going to talk about individually, what they did in the WWE and what I see them doing in the future. But this all ties into what is coming to be even a bigger rumor, and what people are even more talking about now is WWE potentially being sold. Whether that's to NBC Universal, Amazon, ESPN Plus, anyone. It is all leading up to Vince McMahon and Nick Khan, who you are hearing in the rumors almost every single day now. He's the president of WWE. Nick Khan selling WWE. This is all what it's leading up to. And one of the former writers came out and said something about the releases, and I will share that once I'm done talking about this. But we're going to get to these individuals one by one, man. I'm going to go from least important to most important. The first one I'm going to start with is Santana Garrett. Santana Garrett was brought into NXT. Nobody really knew her. And if no one really knows her and they're like, who's Santana Garrett that they released, I would not be shocked. Her biggest spotlight in the WWE was when she was in the Mae Young Classic. I think that was the 2018 Mae Young Classic. And she never got an opportunity in the WWE. She did not get an opportunity in NXT. She was someone to put over others. She wasn't in a big feud or a big match on NXT or a takeover. She was basically there to develop and put others over. And clearly, she knew what she was doing. So, that is that. That's the whole Santana Garrett thing. And then she was brought up to the main roster and was only used on one occasion, and that was the Royal Rumble match, this year's Royal Rumble match, and she was in there for 20 seconds. We did not see her after that on WWE TV. So, number one, I'm not even going to ask why'd you bring her up to the main roster. Why did you sign her in the first place? Why did you sign Santana Garrett if you're going to do absolutely nothing with the woman instead of just, do nothing? She legit did nothing in her time in WWE. And she just wasted 3 years of her career in pro wrestling. Where can I see Santana Garrett going? I think she'd be a nice addition to the women's division. I don't see her going to AEW. I could see her going to Impact. I could see her joining the Knockouts division over there, being with Deonna Purrazzo and Jordynne Grace and Tennille Dashwood. Impact, they're losing some of their women. They lost Ty Valkyrie. They don't really have that many big names in there besides Deonna Purrazzo. So I can see Santana Garrett going over to Impact Wrestling and being in the Knockouts division. Lana was released today, And if I'm going to be completely honest with you folks, Lana's best use of her in the WWE was when she was a manager of Rusev, who is now Miro in AEW. She tried out the wrestling thing. Her first match in 2017, I remember everybody was hyping her up. Oh, she's going to beat Naomi for the women's championship. And she was terrible in the ring. I do not remember a match where Lana was a good. She was not a good. I don't remember seeing her in a good match. From what I heard, she was well liked backstage. People wanted to hang out with her, and she was a very hard worker. And I'm not denying that. That's good for Lana, but her as a wrestler, she was going to go nowhere. Let's be honest. She was going absolutely nowhere as a wrestler. She was trash in the ring, and I mean that with the utmost respect. She was complete trash in the ring, and she was not going to go anywhere. She was not going to go anywhere. And her best days in the WWE was when she was a manager with Rusev and his early run on the main roster when he was undefeated and the United States champion. That was all the way back in 2015. She was not going to make it on the main roster. She was not going to make it as a wrestler. And then she was completely done when Rusev left WWE and he went to AEW, and then the Dynamite after All Out 2020, he shows up, he makes his debut, he's Kip Sabian's best man. He cuts this promo on grabbing the brass ring and shoving it up their ass and stuff like that. And what did they do? The next Raw after that Dynamite, they started. Do you guys remember 9 tables? 9 consecutive weeks on Monday Night Raw. Nia Jax put Lana through the announce table. 9 consecutive weeks. And there was no payoff. There was no payoff for Lana being put through a table for 9 weeks in a row. You can say people will say that the payoff was Lana beating Nia Jax in a tables match, but let's be honest, no one really remembers the match. Everybody remembers the match for Nia Jax screaming out the words, "My hole." So that's not a good payoff. That's a shit payoff, and she got nothing out of that. So really, at the end of the day, and we all knew, the smart wrestling fans out there, we all knew that the reason she was going through those tables was because Miro cut that promo on that Dynamite showing up in AEW, grabbing the brass ring. That's it. That's the only reason why Lana was being punished and was made into basically a dummy. A dummy bag, whatever you call it, on Monday Night Raw. Now, I personally think there's only going to be one place and one place only for Lana to go, and that is simply AEW. I don't see her going to any other place. I don't see her going to an Impact Wrestling or an NWA or a Ring of Honor. I don't see that. I see her 100% going to an AEW, and it's probably because her husband's there, and her husband is the TNT champion right now. And I can see Tony Khan putting CJ Perry right with Miro as a manager. If you're going to bring Lana into AEW, that is the best use of Lana, is a managerial role. I do not want to see her as a wrestler unless, for example, when Ty Conti got released and she put in the time and the work to get better as a wrestler. That way, when she gets to AEW and she works on her things, she knows what she's doing, but she's still learning. Unless Lana is going to end up like Ty Conti, I don't want to see her in a wrestling ring in AEW. Not happening. So, I see Lana, CJ Perry, going to All Elite Wrestling, and I see Tony Khan pairing her up with her husband. That is Miro. Buddy Murphy. I don't really have to say much about Buddy Murphy, to be honest. He is an outstanding wrestler. Yes, we are not denying that whatsoever. Buddy Murphy is outstanding at what he does. I still remember that match he had on SmackDown. That it was a SmackDown after SummerSlam of 2019. It was Buddy Murphy versus Roman Reigns. They had an awesome 12-minute match, and that was honestly one of my favorite television matches of all of 2019. That match was awesome, and they should have pushed Buddy Murphy right after that, because that was his first real opportunity on the main roster, was to get that match with Roman Reigns, and he showed out. He damn near almost beat Roman Reigns in that match. And he lost, but he looked phenomenal. He looked phenomenal in that, and then they simply just dropped the ball on him. And they didn't give a fuck about what to do with him and stuff like that. They didn't care. His best run was probably when he was the Cruiserweight champion and he had those matches with the likes of Akira Tozawa and who else did he wrestle? Ali. I remember that match they had at Survivor Series 2018. That's a underrated match, man. So good for the Cruiserweight Championship. Then they had, after the Roman Reigns match, they dropped the ball on him. They do absolutely nothing, which was ridiculous. Like, how can you not put him at least in the mid-card scene after that match with Roman Reigns? And then he feuds with Aleister Black, and he joins Seth Rollins. He joins Seth Rollins at the end of 2019. He's like, okay, they have something for him. He's going to join Seth Rollins. He's in one of the top programs on Raw. But he was really Seth Rollins' lackey. All the time, he was presented to us as Seth Rollins' lackey. And that's about it. Seth Rollins then turned on him. Or I think it was the other way around. Murphy turned on Seth. I don't even know. I think it was Seth Rollins turned on Murphy. Then Murphy defeated Seth Rollins thanks to the help of the Mysterios. And the last time we saw Murphy on television was in late 2020 when he was making out with Rey Mysterio's daughter. And that was it. That was it. They completely they dropped the ball on him, and there's nothing more to say. He is an outstanding wrestler. There's no denying that. And he is going to succeed. Let me tell you, folks. He is going to succeed wherever he goes. And I know people would want to see him in AEW, but that he would thrive, okay? Buddy Murphy would thrive in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Putting him in that junior weight division with the likes of Dragon Lee and Leo Rush and Hiromu Takahashi when he gets back, and Taiji Shimori, El Phantasmo. He would thrive, man. He would thrive in the junior heavyweight division in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He put on a bunch. I could see him putting on a 5-star match. him and Hiromu, whenever Hiromu comes back, if they were to have a match for the Junior Heavyweight Championship, bro, take my money. Take my money on that match. So I have no doubts that wherever he goes, he is going to succeed. Ruby Riot. I really can't say much about Ruby Riot. She's like Murphy. She's an outstanding wrestler. And nobody would know that. I loved her in NXT. I really liked her run in NXT. I liked her presentation when she came up on the main roster with Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan of the Riot Squad. And what did they do with the Riot Squad? They feuded with Sasha Banks and Bayley on Monday Night Raw for about 6 straight months. It was boring and stale as hell, man. Stale. That stuff was ridiculously boring. But they dropped the ball, like everybody else in the WWE. They dropped the ball on her. They didn't have any plans. She was really a put-over woman, I guess you can say. And they saw nothing in her, which I don't know how that's the case, that you don't see anything in Ruby Riot. She's a great wrestler, in my opinion. Her match with, I think it was Asuka in TakeOver Chicago 2017, I think she wrestled Asuka for the Women's Championship, and I remember how awesome that match was. That was a awesome NXT Women's Championship match, and then later that year she gets called up to the main roster, and really, I don't remember her doing much of anything on the main roster. It is just a shame how they dropped the ball on these talented wrestlers, and to think that WWE wants to make a women's evolution. You want to have women like Ruby Riot in that revolution, but instead you're bringing back Eva Marie, and reports are that WWE is going to push Eva Marie as a top female on Monday Night Raw next to Charlotte Flair. And by reading that, I want to puke. I want to puke, man. That's ridiculous. It is just, oh my God. It's ridiculous. And then they want to make a tweet. Here's the kicker, folks. Once all these releases are made, about an hour later, WWE makes a tweet about Eva Marie and the evolution, and Eva Marie makes a tweet about it. What terrible timing, man. What terrible timing to go ahead and make that tweet. Like, what sense did that have to go ahead and do that when clearly all of this was going on? Unreal, man. Let's move on. Or actually, I forgot where I could see Ruby Riot ending up. I can see her ending up in AEW. If I'm going to be honest, I can see her ending up in AEW. I would like to see her in AEW as well, to be honest. They were building a nice division in that company, in my opinion. That in all of 2021, I'm not saying they have the best women's wrestling in the world. That still is NXT. But as far as women's wrestling in 2021 for this year in particular, AEW is having the best. AEW is having the best year as far as women's wrestling goes. And once the first wave, once the first wave of the wrestlers once their 90-day no-compete is up, which is July 14th, Mickie James is officially going to be a free agent. AEW can go ahead and scoop her up. Now with this wave, the next 90-day compete is up September 2nd. AEW can go ahead and bring in Ruby Riot. You get matches like Ruby Riot versus Britt Baker. I'm going to call her by her real name now. Heidi Lovelace. You can see Heidi Lovelace versus Britt Baker. Heidi Lovelace versus Thunder Rosa. Heidi Lovelace versus Hikaru Shida. Ty Conti. Red Velvet. Jade Cargill. Layla Hirsch. I would love to see her in AEW. And I think she would really succeed there. I really think that she would succeed in AEW. And then, finally, these are the two most controversial names. First, we're going to start off with Aleister Black. I'm just really disappointed, man. How? On God's green earth, how can these clowns mess up Aleister Black? This guy had all the promise in the world. I remember thinking his run in NXT, man, this guy is going to be awesome. He's going to be so over. There's no doubt in my mind that Aleister Black is going to become a five-time WWE champion in the WWE. And he didn't even hold a piece of gold on the main roster. How disappointing is that? He did not even hold championship gold on the main roster for 2 years. This guy was being compared to The Undertaker. Okay? He had comparisons even when he was in NXT. People were comparing him as the next Undertaker. He had the look. He had the scariness. He had the entrance, the candles, all the smoke. His theme song was one of the best theme songs in all of wrestling. His theme song was amazing. An amazing theme song. This guy had one of the most underrated matches, I think, in NXT history against the Velveteen Dream, who we shall not talk about, back at TakeOver War Games 1. My phone is blowing up, so I don't know what is happening, but let me just check it while I talk about Aleister Black. This guy was NXT champion, had great matches with the likes of Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Adam Cole at TakeOver Philadelphia. I still remember that match. I wish I was at that show. Who else? Who else did he wrestle? He had that tag team match with Ricochet against the Viking Raiders at NXT TakeOver New York, which I think is one of the best opening matches I think I've ever seen to a pay-per-view. One of the best opening matches to a pay-per-view that I think I've ever seen since I was watching pro wrestling. And then he gets called up. He gets brought into a tag team with Ricochet. And, They were a solid tag team. Nothing major was going on, by the way. They were a solid tag team on the main roster. I remember the same week, it was WrestleMania week, WrestleMania 35. They competed for the Raw Tag Team Championships, the NXT Tag Team Championships, and the SmackDown Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania. That's when they competed for the SmackDown titles at WrestleMania. They competed for all three of those titles in the same week. And all of their matches were great matches. Really, really good matches. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? If they want to push Aleister Black and Ricochet as a tag team, they have the chemistry. They have the identities. I would be okay with that. And then after WrestleMania, they go their separate ways. They have Ricochet on television, but you know, he's not really getting over, and he's on TV, but he's not in anything meaningful and important. Alistair Black is sitting in the closet, in an all black closet, telling superstars to pick a fight with. Remember when he used to cut that promo? And yeah, oh my God. Pick a fight with. I can't even take it serious. That's how ridiculous it was. That every time I try to say it, I laugh because he sounds ridiculous. Pick. Like who says who says the word pick like that, man? Like, oh my God. Jesus. So then Cesaro picks a fight with him, and he beats Cesaro, and then he goes back into the closet for about 4 more months. Then Buddy Murphy picks a fight with him, and then all of a sudden, he is feuding with Seth Rollins in the Kevin Owens feud. He's on Kevin Owens' side. No explanation as to why he's siding with Kevin Owens against Seth Rollins. And then Seth Rollins goes to feud with Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio, and for no reason, Aleister Black is on the side of Rey Mysterio. He's teaming up with Rey and Dominic and Humberto Carrillo against Seth Rollins. No reason whatsoever. And then Buddy Murphy jams his eye to the steel steps, and he gets this new gimmick. They change everything about him. They changed everything about him that he had in NXT. The look, the identity. He didn't even look cool. And they changed his theme music, which was probably the worst thing you could have done to him. He's got this big eye patch around his eye. He's like, I'm Aleister Black. He's got this new pirate gimmick. Ridiculous. And then he goes on Twitch today and he says when he's injured, he was supposed to only be out for 6 to 8 months. And then he was out for 7 months. Yeah, the reason you were out for 7 months was because they had absolutely nothing for you to do. That Vince and Bruce and all the clowns and creative had nothing for Aleister Black to do. And then Aleister Black on Twitch today, I'm guessing he just wanted to speak positively about the situation because he wants to have he wants to be in good ways with the WWE, which, you know, I respect that. I can get behind that. But he goes out there and he says that, you know, the WWE creative team, they try so hard for talent, and it's like at that point it's like, dude, we are not stupid. We like you, but you're lying in this instance. So that's that. He was originally supposed to win the United States Championship from Andrade, but Vince didn't want him to win a championship in front of nobody. That was when the beginning of the pandemic. I'm like, dude, like, you could have pulled it. You could have pulled the trigger on him right then and there, and you decided not to. Like, at the end of it, I would have not. I would have given him the title. I would not have waited, because you don't know how long you're going to be waiting for it and what can happen in that process. And then it came back to bite him in the ass, because now he's not in the company. And then just recently, like I'd say a month ago, he comes back to SmackDown. He has this new gimmick of the father. His new gimmick, the father. And it's just all coming together. He has his backstage promos for about 3 weeks, which, by the way, looked very cool. I liked them. I was interested to see what he was saying. And then just 2 weeks ago, he was the reason as to why Apollo Crews retained the Intercontinental Championship in that Fatal 4-Way match, because he came out there and attacked Big E. And he was set for a feud with Big E this coming Friday on SmackDown. They were going to start the feud between Alistair Black and Big E. And now he's gone. Now Alistair Black's gone. Like I said, I'm just disappointed in the way WWE handled Alistair Black. I apologize if you guys heard that. I just had to fart real quick, but I'm just so disappointed, because you had people in the IWC comparing this guy to The Undertaker. And then you, as much as if he wants to admit it or not, you drop the ball on him. WWE ultimately dropped the ball on Aleister Black. And I have no doubt in my mind he is going to succeed. He's going to be a big-time player wherever he goes. And I could see him going to New Japan. I can easily see that. But the place for Aleister Black to go is AEW. If you're not for the top company in the world, if you're not on the first biggest company in the world, you want to be in the second. And AEW is the second biggest company in the world. And that reminds me too, for all the people that are upset for these superstars and like, oh my God, I feel so bad for Aleister Black and Braun Strowman and Murphy and Ruby Riot and their future. WWE is not the end-all be-all in wrestling. It's not. Now more than ever, there's way more options that you can go to. You can go to AEW. You can go to New Japan. You can go to Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, NWA. Heck, you can go to GCW. There is more wrestling now than ever before. So I guarantee you, it's just not these 6 guys. It's just not these 6 guys. I bet you more than half the roster could find better success in other companies than they would in WWE. So I just wanted to say that WWE is not the end-all be-all in professional wrestling. There's more options out there for people to succeed, make money, possibly even make more money than they did in WWE, and most importantly, be happy. Be happy, because that's what we want for these wrestlers. We want them to be happy about their careers. Now, Aleister Black in AEW. That is something I want to see. And apparently a lot of people do as well. A lot of people are talking about pairing him up with the Dark Order, Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, make him the Exalted One. I'm sorry, but there is never going to be another leader in the Dark Order after the death of Brody Lee. I think eventually, whenever -1 is ready and he's old enough and matured enough, he's going to be the leader of the Dark Order. I don't think there should be a leader of the Dark Order. I think you should leave that honorary spot for the late great Brody Lee. God bless his soul. So, Alistair Black in the Dark Order does not fit well for me. Yeah, you could put him in a singles role. You can easily put Aleister Black in a singles role if you want. By himself, continue with the father story that he had going on in WWE, and do it in AEW, and possibly do it better in AEW than WWE. And then, possibly, the thing that I would do with Aleister Black. I've seen a few people say this, not a lot. But you know what I would do with Aleister Black? How cool would it look for Tommy End, or at the end, to stand with the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny? You have a faction. The End, the Butcher, the Blade, the Bunny, and the End. I would love that. I think they would look so good together. You talk about a dark tag team in AEW. The Dark Order used to be that dark tag team, but let's be honest, the Dark Order are very over baby faces. Everybody loves the Dark Order. Everybody's not taking Dark Order as a scary faction threat. That is just not the case with the Dark Order. I think that is the case with Tommy End, Butcher, Blade, and Bunny. I think they would look fantastic together. And then you can start your push of the Butcher and the Blade being on top in the tag team division. If you want, you can have them take titles off the Jurassic Express when they're the team that beats the Young Bucks. I would love to see that. I think that would be great for Tommy End, and I think that'd be great for the tag team of the Butcher and the Blade. And then the last superstar, the last wrestler that got released was Braun Strowman. Now, as you guys know, I hate Braun Strowman. I hated Braun Strowman when he was in the WWE. And we'd make fun of him all the time on the Raw reviews, pay-per-view reviews. Whenever he was on a show, we'd mess around with him and all that. But let me tell you, let me take a sip of my water real quick. Let me tell you something. I was shocked to hear that Braun Strowman was released because, quite frankly, he seems like a WWE guy. Braun Strowman, to me, does not come off as a pro wrestler. To me, he comes off as a sports entertainer, which is what the main roster is, according to Vince and the clowns. Sports entertainment. He's a sports entertainer. In no way, shape, or form do I see Braun Strowman as a professional wrestler. The guy can't wrestle worth a shit. He's trash in the ring. Guy does nothing in the wrestling ring. All I remember him doing is The freaking shoulder tackles on the outside, a clothesline to the turnbuckle, and a running power slam. That's it. This guy, Braun Strowman, is Ryback 2.0. And I'll get to why I say that in a little bit. But I was shocked to hear the news that Braun Strowman was released. Out of everybody, I was shocked by Braun Strowman the most. I mean, Christ. 3 weeks ago, this guy was competing for the WWE Championship on pay-per-view. He was in a top match for a top championship on pay-per-view against Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. He was competing at WrestleMania against a McMahon. He competed against a McMahon. He competed against the boss's son, Shane McMahon. And as much as the feud and the match sucked, I guess that's a big deal. Now looking at it, but looking back on his run, this guy was done. This guy was absolutely done when he lost to Brock Lesnar at No Mercy 2017. He was done. That's when they should have capitalized on the momentum that he had in the summer, coming out of that feud with Roman Reigns in the ambulance match with Roman Reigns, all the way back at Great Balls of Fire. They never capitalized on the momentum that Braun Strowman had. Heck, he was actually over. People loved him because of how dominant he was and how strong Braun Strowman was. Do you guys remember when Braun Strowman beat the absolute shit out of Roman Reigns the night after Roman Reigns beat The Undertaker, and how crazy everybody was going because everybody hated Roman Reigns? And then that night, Braun Strowman became everybody's favorite wrestler because he absolutely beat the piss out of Roman Reigns. He beat the piss out of Roman Reigns. He was legit over with the fans, and he lost. He lost to Brock Lesnar at No Mercy in about 6 minutes. After that, he did nothing for the rest of the year. He lost another championship match at Royal Rumble 2018, and then the nail in the coffin. The nail in the coffin was when he won the Raw Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania with an 8-year-old kid. Not even a year ago. This guy was one of the most over things in the entire company and was looked at as a potential Universal Champion. And then a few months later, next year at WrestleMania, he is a Tag Team Champion with an 8-year-old kid. He was done. He was finished after that. Then they try to get him over again. He won Money in the Bank. And he feuded with Kevin Owens. And he feuded with The Shield. He turned heel. I didn't care. I didn't care. And then, of course, he lost again. He lost his big match for the championship again. Then he just does pretty much nothing. Irrelevancy, feuding with the SNL guys heading into WrestleMania. My goodness. He did much of nothing. He did much of nothing in 2019. 2020, he was the Universal Champion. He defeated Goldberg, who was supposed to be Goldberg versus Roman Reigns, and ended up being Braun Strowman versus Goldberg in a match that made absolutely no sense. And then looking back at the reign that Braun Strowman had one of the worst world title reigns I can ever remember. He feuded with Bray Wyatt for 3 months. He had a garbage match at Backlash with The Miz and John Morrison. Excuse me. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible, man. Feuded with Bray Wyatt for 3 months. The feud was dragging. And it was just boring as hell. And then that was it. I expected him to stick around in the WWE because I thought Vince McMahon and them liked. And now I do think they liked them after the report that came out as to why Braun Strowman was actually released. So I'm about to read it right now. This is a report from Fightful Select and Sean Ross Sapp. He says Braun Strowman's release was likely the most surprising to fans, but to talent close to the situation, it didn't seem to be. Several that we spoke to said that Strowman's contract that he signed in 2019 was a monster deal. I will get to that in a second. It was a monster deal. And that he very much knew his worth when negotiating with the company. His contract came down to the wire in the summer of 2019, and he was signed well into 2023 for what WWE sources claimed was over $1 million per year. Strowman was said to have been very private about negotiating the deal until it was finalized. So that was the report. So Braun Strowman, for 1 year, was paid over $1 million. He was making $1 million a year. So if he's making $1 million a year for himself, how much do you think Drew McIntyre is making? How much do you think, let's say, I don't know, Kofi Kingston? How much do you think Kofi Kingston? He's probably making a little less, but he's up in the $1 million range. He's been there for a long time. How much do you think Roman Reigns is making? Roman Reigns is probably, I would not be shocked, Roman Reigns is probably making about $2 million a year, maybe $2.5 million. Randy Orton, $2 million. Drew McIntyre, maybe he's at $2 million. That is outrageous. And then the 5-year deal. Oh, the sweet 5-year deals. You know, recently WWE stopped doing the 5-year deals, and they never really did. But in 2019, when they started to do 5-year deals and give all these talent money, it came back to bite them in the ass. It came back to bite them in the ass doing all these 5-year deals for the talent. And the only reason that they gave these people 5-year deals, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like Jinder Mahal, 5 years. Dana Brooke, 5 years. Mojo Rawley, 5. Like, they were doing some jobbers. They were signing jobbers to 5-year deals. And the only reason they did that was to keep them away from AEW. Because AEW was just about to come into the wrestling world at the beginning of 2019. That's when the 5-year deal started. Was when AEW started to exist. So that came back to bite them in the ass. Now, I'm going to say one thing about Braun Strowman, and then I will move on about the whole WWE selling situation. I will not forget, I don't want anybody in the wrestling world to be fired. I never wish firing upon... I'm beginning to wish that... my bad. I don't want to wish firing upon anybody in the wrestling business, okay? But Braun Strowman had to have this coming. Karma is a bitch. At the beginning of the pandemic, Evil Uno set up a GoFundMe account for all independent wrestlers who were without jobs during the pandemic. Braun Strowman came out and said, the indies are lazy. Go out and get a real job and go get some money during the pandemic. Don't sit around and do nothing and set up GoFundMes for people to feel bad about you. And Braun Strowman came off as a effing scumbag in that situation. That's why he blocked everybody. He blocked me. He still has me blocked. He blocked everybody that came at him negatively. And he came off as a complete scumbag in the situation. And now, over a year later, Braun Strowman is without a job. And quite frankly, where do I see Braun Strowman? Remember when I said he's going to be Ryback 2.0? Technically, I don't see any company wanting to pick up Braun Strowman. I don't. Number one, he is not a good wrestler. He is not that good in the ring, and the same thing that you got in the WWE is going to be the same thing that you get whenever he's on the indie scene. That is the same exact thing you are going to get from Braun Strowman. It's a fact. And it's just a simple fact. And then two, he made a terrible example out of himself last year at the beginning of the pandemic. All he had to do was keep his mouth shut. That is all he had to do, was zip it, not say a word. But he came out and he made himself to be... He made himself out to be a dick, okay? He sent a terrible message to not only the wrestling business, but to independent wrestlers and to independent companies that were out of a job and couldn't run shows at the time. So why would they want Braun Strowman? Looking back on that situation, I don't see any professional wrestler. I don't see any wrestling company wanting to pick up Braun Strowman. So he could maybe, I don't know. I don't know what his future holds. I hope for the best. But personally, if I'm being real, I don't see any wrestling company wanting to pick up Braun Strowman. That is just what I think. That's my opinion. But those are all of the releases that happened today. And now the final thing is, what is this all for? Well, everybody's talking about it. If you put 2 and 2 together, it looks like, according to multiple reports, at WWE, Vince McMahon is setting himself up to sell the company. That is what everybody is talking about. As a former writer, David Schilling, he talks about the possibility of selling WWE after huge cuts. These were not the only cuts this year. There were a lot of cuts. We had one. Tom Phillips was let go last week. Adnan Virk also. I mean, I don't think he was let go for budget cuts, but the releasings in April, Samoa Joe, Iconics, last year, beginning of the year, when they let go of Andrade. Andrade wanted to leave. So I think they gave him his wish there. But man, they have made a bunch of cuts in the past year. And I have an article right here that I'm about to read to you guys about these possibly selling the company. For the past couple of months, WWE has let go several employees, including their own superstars. It all began on April 15th with superstars such as Mickie James, Samoa Joe, Peyton Royce, and Billie Kay getting fired. Afterwards, the company proceeded to release many of NXT and over 60 backstage employees overall have been let go since April. That is a ridiculous number, man. 60 backstage employees. To make matters worse, the company released several big names from the company, including the likes of Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, Lana, Ruby Riot, Buddy Murphy, and Santana Garrett. Many fans were shocked at the release of someone like Braun Strowman, who was a former Universal Champion and was paid a lot of money with this contract. Due to cuts of such a nature, speculation that the company is likely to be sold has gained steam yet again. Former WWE writer Dave Schilling, who worked for WWE creative team in early 2019, he took to Twitter and shared his thoughts regarding WWE's decision to fire so many superstars suddenly. Schilling mentioned how Strowman was a top guy, and Alistair Black had just received a push on WWE television just last week. Adding that something like this only happens if a company is trying to maximize profits before a sale. He said the following, I think WWE is for sale. You don't cut talents. You don't cut talent assets on this level unless you are trying to maximize profits before a sale. Braun is a top guy, a former world champion, and a merchandise mover. I don't know about all of that, but that's what he said. Alistair Black was getting a push on TV just last week. This is very telling. The rumors of WWE getting sold is a yearly occurrence at this point in time. However, this year the rumors have become more and more talk as a talking point. We will have to wait and see if the company will be sold or not. It feels more evident day and day. It feels more evident when these cuts happen That they don't make these cuts for no reason. They don't make these cuts just because of budget cuts. I think that's complete bullshit. That's what Aleister Black said that he got released. Aleister Black said on his Twitch, or his wife's Twitch, that the reason he got cut was because of budget cuts. I think that's complete bullshit. I think that's probably what they told everybody that they got released was because of budget cuts. That's what Samoa Joe said he got released for. Budget cuts. That's bullshit. I don't work inside the WWE. I don't know anybody in the WWE, of course, but me personally, I find that to be complete bullshit. And it makes sense. It makes sense now that all of these cuts is leading up to something, and they could be selling the company, whether that's to Disney, which, my God, if WWE sells themselves to Disney, that product is never going to get better for a very long time, maybe forever. I would hate to see WWE end up on freaking Disney. That would not work out well. Amazon, Hulu, ESPN Plus, I don't know. These are the names that they're talking about WWE selling WWE rights to. NBC Universal, that's another name. But, oh my God, man. I knew today was going to be a busy day after last night. And it certainly was, man. Let me tell you, I did not. I was actually planning on coming in, talking about doing a baseball video, talking about the Phillies for a little bit and how much they are struggling as a baseball team. Make a short 10, 15-minute video on that. And then this happens. And now, all of a sudden, on a night where there's no AEW, I am sitting here making a legit podcast for over an hour on all of this stuff that went down today. But it sucks that we have to, us as content creators, like myself, like a JD, like a Sean Ross Sapp, like a Gamer's Goon, or Elitist, have to sit down and do. It's not fun making these videos, but it's once these news get out, it's the biggest talking point of all wrestling for a couple days, and it's newsworthy, and it gets people talking. So I'm going to be down the shore for the rest of the week. I will be in New Jersey, but I'll be down the shore for the rest of the week. But if there is any news regarding more releasings, if more releasings unfortunately come out tomorrow or sometime in the weekend, I will be making another video for you guys here on the Big Fight Field channel. So stay tuned for that. And thank you guys for watching this hour-long video. I did not expect to be here talking about releases and all this stuff. WWE selling to whoever soon. I did not expect it, but thank you guys for watching. If you have not already, man, subscribe to the channel. We're going to try to get some more content up. It's going to be a busy rest of the week for me as I will be down the shore. Like I said, I am leaving about tomorrow night, and I will be back in my house Sunday night. So I'm just going to take a nice break. But if there is any more news, more releases, major news in WWE, I will be covering it here on the Big Fight Field channel. I will also be here Friday night to talk about AEW Dynamite with Wesley Williams. And that's it, guys. That is it for today. So be sure to subscribe to the channel for some great content. Comment down below your thoughts on the releases today. Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, Buddy Murphy, Ruby Riot, Lana, Santana Garrett. Let me know your thoughts on the comments below. Hit the like button if you like what you heard from me in the video. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Colin_Joseph. And I will see you guys in a news video if there's more news that sheesh. Long podcast, man. If there's any more news on more releasings in the WWE, I will be right here on the Big Fight Field channel talking about it. But if there's not, by Friday night, I will see you guys for the late night Dynamite review with Wesley Williams this coming Friday night. So have a good night, guys. Stay safe. And as always, stay classy.